Well, hello there, and this is Auntie, and I am here to do part two of my series of reviewing this book by my dear friend Janice Hilton Thompson. Okay. 23 types of guys you might meet on social media. Are y'all ready for this? Let's get into it.
Everybody needs a sweet old auntie. Everybody needs
with a whoop whoop and a boop boop
auntie
boop.
that everybody needs.
You can make this up. Now you know that these are some crazy motherfuckers.
Everybody needs a sweet old auntie.
So why even bother?
Aunties and lives, sweet old auntie. Aunties and ways. Are you okay? Are you okay?
Well, welcome back, everybody. And this is Auntie. If this is your first time here, please like, comment, and I'm bringing my candle over. I want to set a certain mood tonight. Okay. Hopefully, this candle will help y'all too. If this is your first time being here, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And to all of my new subscribers, thank you all so much for joining this family, and to all of my nieces and nephews and my members who have been here with me for the long haul. Thank you all so much for your continued support. Yesterday, we started off in a review series of 23 types of guys you might meet on social media. And I must admit that it was extremely intriguing. Like, this was different, and I absolutely enjoyed it. For all of you all who missed it, I will make sure that I provide the link to the YouTube video in the end notes so that you all will have an opportunity to catch up with us. So yesterday we were on, I should have got me a little cup of coffee. Okay, because we're gonna just lay back and chill and get into this. Um Yesterday we started off at the first man. We also went through a couple of other men, and I stopped at the second set of men that you may meet on social media. um I'm going to be skipping some of these because if you're interested in finding out more about this, then you should absolutely purchase the book. The book can be purchased on Amazon.com. Again, I have one free copy of this that Janice has provided to me. So if you are interested in purchasing this book, or you're interested in getting that extra copy that I have, please, by all means, send me an email and let me know why you would like the book, okay? And I'll send it out to you. First come, first serve, okay? First come, first serve. So again, I am in 23 types of guys you might meet on social media. To Mr. Take What You Can Get. And there are quite a few men who are in this particular section, and I'm going to skip some of them. And we're going to go directly to Mr. Wrong. If you have the book, we are on page 136 of the book. Again, let me show you all the book. 23 types of guys you might meet on social media. Okay. So we're going to go now to Mr. Wrong. Ladies, have you ever met a man that you know is just plain wrong for you? raising my hands and saying, Amen, sisters. You gave him the time of day, holding your breath, hoping and praying that the frog standing in front of you will eventually turn into a prince. Like you, I have been there, but eventually I had to walk away because I had to look at the end, and what I wanted was my Mr. Right and not Mr. Wrong. Stop entertaining Mr. Wrong and make time for your Mr. Right. She didn't indicate what this Mr. Wrong was, what characteristics or that he had. As far as a Mr. Wrong is concerned, she's just giving you an overview of knowing in your heart. Yesterday we talked a little bit about that sixth sense that resides in every one of us, and it's in your gut. Yeah, gut feeling that this is just not the right person for me. It's almost the same kind of gut feeling or intuition, some people call it, when you are in a place or a space and you realize that this is not where I should be, right? And so it's the same thing, the same instinct you can get from being with the wrong guy. Then she says, Mr. Right Now. Now, I think that all of us have had a Mr. Right Now, right, ladies? We can all raise our hands. She says, oh, Mr. Right Now, who will be honest enough to say at one time or another you have dealt with Mr. Right Now, be it for sex, company, companionship, or help with the situation? You know he's not your Mr. Forever. But for right now, he will do. Okay? I think that we all can testify, at least all of us who are, a little more seasoned and have had an experience, that we all have compromised with a guy that we call Mr. Right Now. And I think that we as women have named him Mr. Right Now, um, because we know that he is currently fulfilling a need right now. Right now, he is. But as she wrote in the book, she's absolutely correct. You already know in your heart of hearts that he is not your forever man. And I think that a lot of these men that she talks about in the previous pages, you know that they are not your man. Regardless of what you may say to your friends, and regardless of what sometimes you may say to yourself, you know that he is not that forever man for you. So let me keep reading. Ladies, beware of this man wherever you meet him, be it online or face to face. Do not allow Mr. Right Now to be all up in your inbox, telling you his sacred lies, stroking your bruised heart while he tells you how he can scratch your itch. Don't even use Mr. Right Now to try to get over the last guy who hurt you or allow him to be your rebound. Mr. Right Now is a waste of time, but if you are not careful, he could take you off destiny's path. Once you recognize that he is a Mr. Right Now, block him, delete him, stop talking to him, and anything else you need to do for him not to have his claws in you. Why waste time with Mr. Right Now when your Mr. Forever is waiting right around the corner? Unfortunately, some women make the foolish decision of making Mr. Right Now their Mr. Forever. Now, I don't know whether or not Mr. Right Now needs to be blocked. I'm going to keep it a buck. I don't know whether or not he needs to be deleted, blocked, or anything like that. The word says that we are to guard our heart with all due diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life. If you are currently in a relationship with someone that is Mr. Right Now, you absolutely should end it. But it doesn't mean that Mr. Right Now has to be cut off or blocked. You just have to guard your heart as it relates to him and allow your spirit your mind, your body, and your soul, right? You have to allow all of that to be open to receive. Anything that we receive or any person we receive in our lives, we have to be open to receive them. And just because he is a Mr. Right Now doesn't make him a bad guy. Now, if he's one of these other guys that Janice has identified in this book, then by means get rid of him, right? Mr. Drive By and all of that kind of stuff. But Mr. Right Now, in my opinion, is more about your responsibility of not dragging this man any further when you know that you don't have the best intentions for him. Again, as I said yesterday, I think that this book really helps us as women to date respectfully, date intentionally, and it helps us to see us. The 23 type of men that you may meet on social media or on the street, um you are in control of all of this. So if I have one takeaway, is that I believe that this book will strengthen you as a woman to realize what you accept and what you don't accept. I am always talking about negotiables and non-negotiables. Um when I do reviews on Auntie's Advice or when I talk about things here on this particular channel. And you have to know that you know that you know that you know that you know who you are and where you fit in this. Because we all have a responsibility to guard our hearts. We have a responsibility to do the right thing as it relates to us as women. What we will accept and what we won't. There are certain times in our lives where we will accept something, some trash from a person, whether it be a male relationship or a female relationship, or excuse me, or vice versa. There are certain times and seasons in our lives where we will accept more. And then, once we get past that particular season, whether it's fall, winter, spring, or summer, we look back at it and say, why was I at this point? What made me accept this particular kind of guy? Right? With no judgment, just critically thinking with yourself. Um, I am in the process of writing some journals and putting some journals out where you can write down and journal during the day, like where you are mentally. We are very hormonal as women. And so while in the spring, we may want a homie lover friend, when fall comes and things begin to die out and all that, we may want a Mr. Right Now. So it's a inward check that you really need to do when dealing with these men that you may meet. And you gotta be conscious or cognizant, if you will, of where you are in your life. What season are you in your life? I am no longer a 25-year-old woman, so I don't think like a 25-year-old woman. I am more conscious of the decisions that I'm making. I know myself better than I ever have. And I have learned and grown to accept myself. And so when you learn and you grow into a place of acceptance and you know who you are and whose you are, you make better decisions for your life. So if you are in a situation right now where you're feeling like, I really do want to Mr. Right Now because I don't want to be lonely, be honest in that place, right? Don't beat yourself up. I said that yesterday. Do not beat yourself up. Don't condemn yourself for that thing, because the word says that God has always provided a way of escape for anything that you've gone through, right? And so there is always a way out of it. always a way out of any kind of situation that you're in. Mr. Right Now may not be um, the guy for you for forever. But here's the thing, when you're in a relationship with Mr. Right Now, it's up to you to be honest with him, because as long as the earth remains, there will always be seed time and harvest. That's word. And so whatever you put out there in the universe is coming back like a boomerang. And if you live long enough, you will realize that that stuff is going to come back to you. So if you have a Mr. Right Now, be very honest with him. Allow him the opportunity to stay in this situation or this relationship with you, knowing that there's not going to be a possibility that you're going to walk down the aisle. Remember, women and men, you are always in the driver's seat. You are the one who drives this. Okay? So then she has Mr. Hangout. What does that mean? Mr. Hangout jumps in your inbox and says, hey, let's hang out. Your response is okay. But 2 weeks later, he hasn't set a date, time, or place to hang out. You sit at home foolishly waiting for Mr. Hangout to message you. Question: why are you sitting at home waiting for Mr. Hangout when you need to be hanging out, meeting, and dating other guys? You then jump in his inbox, leaning all the way forward by setting up the date and even offering to pay. Girl, he nicely brushes you off because he has other plans. A week or so later, he jumps in your inbox late in the midnight hour out of the blue and says, hey, when are we going to hang out? Mr. Hangout offers to come over for you to come by and hang out. You in all your desperation welcome his invitation. The next thing you know, you're hanging on to the ceiling fan as y'all are knocking boots because Mr. Hangout has already classified you as a booty call. You see, ladies, when men meet you, they automatically put you in a category. Um, okay. Mr. Vague. I have no time for or patience for this guy. He is so vague that you don't even know his name. I think that if you are an authentic person, there's nothing to be vague about. Yes, be wise with your answers. Don't reveal too much. There's a way to answer questions without dishing out all your business. You try to ask Mr. Vague questions, and he gives you non answers and nothing specific. That way, you don't have enough data to make an informed decision. You ask him about his employment, and he says, well, I work in the automobile industry. Or he says, I work in the security and protection industry. You think, oh, that sounds nice. But what does it mean? How about this one? He says he's in the entertainment business. Chills go up to your spine, and the butterflies in your heart begin to flutter with joy. Fascinated by his words, you find yourself wanting to lock him down. You give up the cookie, and while having a heart to heart with his mama's dingy basement. Wait a minute. And while having a heart to heart in his mama's dingy basement on a mattress on the floor, he tells you that he's not looking for anything serious right now. Additionally, he goes on to say that he is a mechanic who doesn't have a stable job, or that he is a security guard doing the graveyard shift fill-ins. Come to find out that he makes bootleg DVDs and sells them. He's an entrepreneur. Shall he an entrepreneur? Do you know that stealing, ladies? I keep stressing to you to get the data so that you can have, well, yeah, excuse me, y'all, info to make an informed decision. Again, this is about personal responsibility. It's about personal responsibility. Now, this could work twofold because I would be Miss Vague. In dating, you don't want to give up too much data until you know what category he is in. Under the last sentence under Mr. Hangout, the author says they automatically put you in a category. But according to this book, we've automatically put these men in categories. There's 23 categories, 23 plus categories that we've put these men in. Mr. Right Now, Mr. Ding-a-ling, Mr. I Ain't Got a Job, Mr. Vague. We've categorized them too. Is it right or is it wrong? It's totally up to you on how you see it. But this book is a category of men that you may meet, types, category in your life. And so Mr. Vague is vague to either protect himself or to disarm you. And you got to know which one it is. If it's important to you to know where he works, and I don't know what this doesn't say, like what where you are. I don't know if this is the first date, if this is the third date, or if this is the 10th date. Because what it says is that you met this guy. He said he's in the music industry, but now you in his mama's basement. How can the two of those be true? If he's in the music industry, and as she said, now you got chills going up and down your spine and all of that, and you in the basement, then you already knew what it was. In my opinion, you knew what it was. So you have to be honest with yourself about what decisions you want to make with these different types or categories of men. Okay? This is now, we're in chapter 3, and it's chapter 3 is Mr. Sexy, Mr. Eye Candy, and Mr. Physical. Now these are outward appearances, right? That's what I'm assuming before I even start reading it. Again, for all of you all who are new to this channel, thank you so much for being here. Auntie does not pre-read any of this information. I read this information live on air so that you can get my most authentic reaction or my most authentic thoughts, my most authentic advice on the spot. I don't pre-read any of this. I've not read past the pages I read last night, and I do that intentionally because I want you to hear an older woman's most authentic thoughts. I am what you call a Titus 2 woman. In the word, it talks about the Titus 2 woman, who is an older woman who is to train up the younger women. That is one of the reasons why I created Auntie's Advice. So just for a little bit of history, and I'm going to go on, get on it and get off of it. I used to be on Facebook in a group with my nieces, my biological nieces, and they and their friends would come into the Facebook group, and we would sit and I would give them advice. We would talk about different scenarios. Maybe we would use a show or a situation that maybe one of them were going through, and we began to build a community where I would sit with them and give them advice about just their everyday life. And thus Auntie's advice was birthed, because I was and I am their real aunt. So they would come to me with that advice, and I took it and expanded it. And I'm very happy that I did that. So, again, anything that I read, I've read it for the very first time, and it is absolutely authentic reactions. Okay. So, this one is going into the physical characteristics. Physical characteristics. She says, laugh you must, but we are all attracted to something about a man. Either he is eye candy, incredibly sexy, looks good physically, or something else about him. I know church folks say it doesn't matter what he looks like. Liars. Can you name one well known pastor whose wife is ugly? Hell yeah. Ladies, there's nothing wrong with wanting a man who you find physically attractive, good looking, or sexy. However, what is the number one rule? Don't choose him because of one thing. My husband is very handsome. I remember sitting across from him on our first date and thinking, my Lord, he's good looking. But that was not enough for me. I had to make sure I added up to what I uh, desire in a husband. So as you gather data on the guys you meet, please be aware of your weaknesses for the following guys. Mr. Tall, drink of water. Like Mr. Status, he leads with his body. Is he leading with his body, or are we attracted to his body? Does he use his body to his advantage? So do we. So do we. Some of us show more cleavage than we ought to. Some of us make sure that our pants, so we all lead with that. So let's just have an open mind about this, okay? He leads with his body. Am I the only woman who loves a tall man? See, that's your hang up, right? And she says, please be aware of your weaknesses. So we're gonna keep that in mind. I know I'm not. Yes, Lord. This mister is taller than the average guy, and he knows that many women love a tall man. Craft, craft, Craftily, he uses his height as bait to get women in his inbox. How? Sway? I don't understand that. Now, I'm trying to tell you, I don't understand that right there. Because he's fully aware that many women love tall men. Okay. Please, ladies, don't be thirsty by jumping into Mr. Tall Drink of Waters or anyone else inbox without him contacting you first. So if he contact you first and he tall, then what? I know we are living in the age of the woman where we say and think that if a man can do it, then we can too. Well, if that's where you are, that's on you. But my father has always told me that if a man wants me, he will come for me. If he's interested in me, then he will make his interest known. Please stay out of the menfolk inboxes. And if a man sends you a message, be on alert. Don't get all desperate, impatient, and thirsty. Let him lead. But what does that have to do with his height? I'm missing something. Yeah, what does it have to do with his height? Again, I don't understand. I'm not making the connection. Are y'all making the connection? Maybe I'm not making the connection, because it could be any man that comes into your box, whether he's fat, skinny, whatever your preference is, that's what your preference is. But it doesn't mean that a man is using those things, or that it's wrong for him to use those things, because we use those things. I'm lost. She goes to Mr. Big, Tall, and Husky, Mr. Tall, Dark, and Handsome, Mr. Light Skin, Mr. Fine like Divine Wine, Mr. Sexy Wet Lips, Mr. Salt and Pepper, Mr. Facial Hair, Mr. Zaddy, Mr. Sexy Old Man, Mr. Baldhead Man, Mr. T Impacts, Mr. Athletic, Mr. Goodhead and Hazel Eyes, and ain't nothing wrong with none of that. Those are people, that's somebody's outer appearance. You're attracted to what you're attracted to. But why should you be weary and scared because a man is handsome or he's light skinned or he like what? I'm lost like a mother. Let me read Mr. Light Skin. Apparently being light skinned is back in style. I know many women of color who would not date a dark skinned man. Yeah, sure, that can be considered shallow and hateful of one's race. And yes, I know that God only created one race, the human race. But I also know that you know what I mean. However, let's be honest here. We have a right to like what we like. I, for one, love chocolate men, but if you see a husband who ain't even close to being chocolate, but while I love chocolate guys, I was open to whatever complexion my African king could be. Ladies, if you love Mr. Light Skin, be careful that you don't allow that to take your mind off the things you need to pay attention to. Mr. Light Skin is no different from any of those guys I've mentioned. No matter who he is or what's rapping he comes in, get all the information you need before making a decision. But what does that have to do with his skin color? What should you be what should you be aware of? If Mr. Light Skin is no different than Mr. Dark Skin, what? Hey, so she goes into Mr. Tall, Dark, and Handsome. This Mr. is like Mr. Tall, is Mr. Tall, drink of water. However, he's a triple threat. Why? Beware, princesses. The same way as ladies, we hope to attract guys by fixing ourselves up. They use what they have to try to draw us to. Exactly. Please remember that I'm not saying every man is out there just looking for women to screw over. But great guys are genuinely looking for a wife. However, I want you to be aware if a man is selling his tall, dark, and handsomeness, then more than likely he's just looking for victims. Oh my goodness, because he's tall, dark, and handsome, he looking for victims? That's not something on the outside. That's something on the inside. That's the other men. Look, let me tell you something. What do they say? You cannot judge a book by its cover. And if you are attracted to a tall, black, and handsome man, a light skinned man, a fine as age wine man, a big, tall, and husky man, a tall drink of water man, if you're attracted to that, a man with facial hair, we all got preferences. But what somebody looks like on the outside has nothing to do with who they are on the inside. And everybody's going to leave with what they think is a draw. Absolutely, Missy. She says, I think she's trying to say beware of good looking men, but ugly men do wrong too. And then they got the nerve to be ugly. And most of the time when we date ugly guys, we be compromising with the ugly mother. We be feeling like we doing them a favor, and then they go and dog us out. So I'd rather be with Mr. Sexy with lips. I'd rather be with, if I'm attracted to something, I'm attracted to it. And there's nothing wrong with it. We can't. So men, look at us. Trust me. I know where she's trying to go with this. But men judge us the same way. They put us in categories like we put them in categories. And we have to meet people where they are in their heart. Yes, that attraction is what's going to pull you in, right? That first time. But you got to be a woman who knows how to get past what your eyes have seen. Let me just say this. Because we're going to go into number 4. Let me say this. God has created us with senses. He's given us eyes to see those things that are beautiful. He's given us eyes to see. Mary said that's what happens when you treat a 2 like an 8. Exactly. I have, over the years, have an appetite for flowers. I never did in the past. I was seeing them. I thought they was beautiful. I like them. I like fresh cut flowers in my house every week. But lately I have gotten into gardening. And I enjoy it. I enjoy the beauty of a flower. I'm learning different ones, chrysanthemums, all that kind of stuff. My daughter's teaching me. Sometimes I still don't remember, but I know the difference between a tulip and a rose. God has given us eyes to see. And there's an old cliche that says that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But when you get past what you see on the outside, is the inside pleasant? There is a plant that blooms once a year. I cannot think of what the name of that plant is. Let me see. The name of the plant, this plant is at the Smithsonian Institute. It's called a night blooming cereus plant burst open. It blooms one night and then it's gone. It is a beautiful plant, but it has a horrific smell to it, right? They said that it has starlight blossoms as well, and it has a tendency to bloom all at once. Plant lovers often gather to celebrate its unfurling, and such gatherings are not new, is not a new idea. But when this plant, I believe, when it blooms, it stinks all to the hell, right? But people are so intrigued because I know at the botanical garden, people register to see that plant, right? It's a wonder. It's the same thing with people. It's the same thing with other plants. There are other plants that are absolutely beautiful to look at, but when you touch them, some of them feel rubbery, they prickly. Some of them have bad smells to them. They don't smell as sweet as you think that they would smell when you get up on them and smell them up. You'd be like, I don't want that in my yard. Some of them are pollinators. Um, and the pollinators are the ones where you're going to get them. They're absolutely beautiful and they smell beautiful, but you got to deal with all the other insects that want to enjoy that plant with you, right? They want to suck the nectar out of that plant. And then you got your green leafy plants, right? That bring beauty to another plant when they're combined together. So humans. You may like a man that's tall, dark, and handsome, but when you sit down with him and you get an opportunity to find out who he really is, he's pungent and stink like a mother. He doesn't have any personality. He's inconsiderate. He's rude as hell. He's a playboy and you know it from the minute he opens his mouth. He's asking you for sex before the end of the night. He doesn't want to pay for dinner. His credit card is oops left at home. But if you're attracted to it, to that type of plant or that type of um man, it's okay. But you got to find out whether or not you like the smell and the aroma that he gives off. You have to know that every package ain't the same. And because you like a man that is light skinned or you attracted or you drawn to him, you have to take the opportunity to find out what he is in the inside. Who is he past that packaging? Some of us like to date interracially, right? I don't have a preference. I prefer this or I prefer that over this or I prefer that. I like people based on their personality. But I must say, a man that is got a beard on him and he got a little, yeah, I like a man with a beard. But he could be white. He could be Latino. He can be black. I like what I like. You like what you like. I think the most important thing that I want you all to walk away with is it's okay to have a preference or to have something that you are attracted to. I am attracted to roses, but bitch, I don't like the thorns. And so if I bring a flower, a rose in my home, I know what I got to deal with when I'm dealing with that rose. I know I got to dethorn it. I'm hoping y'all are understanding what I'm trying to say. You don't throw the whole thing out and you don't throw out what you're attracted to because it may come with a little bit of work. But you don't, it's nothing wrong with me passing the tulips because there are people who like tulips. There's nothing wrong with me passing the carnations because there are people who like the carnations. I don't have to like the carnations because I'm scared of what may come with the fucking rose. So I don't want you all to feel like You got to watch anybody. I don't care if he's the other ugly mother. Because, see, this didn't talk about the mofos who look like the bottom of your shoe. But there's something about his character that you think that you like. And I'm going to tell you what I have found in my years. And I'm going to go hit on and keep it a buck because that's all I know to do. Men who are broke, busted, and disgusted and cannot be trusted got the best sex there is. A man that's a fake ass entrepreneur will rock your world, will have you up all night. But we don't talk about them. We don't absolutely, Missy Rose, because that's all they got. And so they work on their craft. But I would never judge anybody based on their skin color. I don't like a fat man. That's just a preference. But I'm not going to judge him because he a fat man. I can't judge a person based on what they look like on the outside. If they not for me, they just not for me. Just like I don't prefer a daffodil. But it doesn't make the daffodil less beautiful. And those people who are attracted to daffodils should go after daffodils. And I know what she means in this book because I don't want anyone to think that I'm being critical. But what I'm trying to tell you is about these different men, these different 23 type of men that you might meet on social media. You got to meet you first. At the end of the day, you got to meet you first. I don't subscribe that all tall men use their bodies or their tallness to draw you in to hurt you. Just like I don't believe that every woman like myself with a big old fat butt is trying to entice a man in to take his money. I don't believe that a light-skinned woman or fair-skinned woman with pretty brown hazel eyes has the intention to use that to get money. I think that we have to stop looking at the outer. I've dated some guys who I don't think that any of, let me say it like this. In my dating life, I never had a type. I have a preference of what I like, but I never had a type. And of the men that I dated, none of them looked the same. They all didn't look the same. When I dated the ex-hockey player, I think he's retired now. He was white with blonde hair and blue eyes. He didn't look like my boyfriend of 4 years who was 6'5", dark as the shirt that I got on, with vitiligo. And neither did he look like another one of my boyfriends of 4 years who was or could pass for Spanish. None of my boyfriends have ever looked alike. And again, I go back to when I talked about what season are you in? See, I was attracted to everybody that I dated based on who they were in the inside, but not on who they were on the outside. I find myself attracted to personality, character, the measure of a man. Not on the outside. I like guys who are nerdy, who don't fit in with the crowd. I like the guy that's in the corner, not the loud mother. I don't want him. And so it doesn't make a difference if he's tall, ugly, light skinned, as people say. And I think that that's just like, what is light skin? Is it fair skinned? And then what is fair skin? I think that as Black people, our families come in different shades and different hues of brown. And I would never walk up to my nieces and be like, you light skinned with green eyes. Because that's just not what we do, you know. Um, I'm hoping that you all got what I'm trying to say about judging people based on the outside. Because a man is tall doesn't mean that he's trying to wow you with his tallness. Just like it doesn't mean that you're trying to wow someone with your Coke bottle shape. And we've got to get out of the place where we are judging people based on their outer appearance, what they look like. We've got to get deeper than that. We need to get skin deep. We have to do the work and love people, get to know people based on who they are. Now, again, God has given us a sense. One of our senses is sight. And so we like what we like. But you may be surprised if you give yourself a chance to observe a person past what it is that you see on the outside. You just might find someone that's a total opposite of what you thought you liked, because the inner person is just really just shining and coming through. Now, having said that, I do want to say one thing. I do not like a fat man. That's just something I just don't like. And I think that, no, I don't think, I know that I didn't, because I used to be heavy. And so I did not want to be walking around looking like 2 zeros. One of us had to be a 1 to make a 10. Excuse me. But now I don't know if I would even be opposed to it. I think that when you grow up, you do change. And I saw someone had that in the comment section. Is that Diamond Donna 2K? She says, I used to have a type, but when I got older, that changed. So I do understand what she is. I do understand what she is saying, but I want to make sure that we are not judging people based on what they look like and putting them in a category and saying, oh, I gotta, excuse me, watch this particular man because he's tall, dark, and handsome. God made him tall, dark, and handsome for somebody. Why not me? And that's about self-image too. Because sometimes, you look at a different person based on information that's stored in your own particular database, and you think a particular person who looks a certain way is out of your league, that this person would never be attracted to me because I'm 5'3" and I'm 235 pounds. Or you may think that this person is out of your league because you're 6'1" and 180, or you have freckles on your face, or you got a little pudgy stomach, or sometimes we judge ourselves based on other people, and we deem ourselves unworthy of having a man or a woman who looks a certain kind of way. And there are some people who are superficial enough to judge you based on your skin color, um, your height, your weight, all that kind of stuff, right? But I think it's an internal, and it's really an internal thing where you're saying, well, you know what, because I'm so chocolate and I'm so dark. Hold on for a second. Thank you. We see you said as women, we as women are so hard on ourselves sometimes. We are. And we feel like we're not worthy because society has made us believe that we have to be a certain way, or we have to be a certain size um, in order to be pleasing to a man. And that's so far from the truth. We don't have to have long hair. Um, the standard for beauty is not what it used to be. Especially I think for I know at least in my culture, um, natural hair is in. It took us years to get to a point where we accepted our natural hair because in order to fit in certain parts of society or in corporate America, our hair had to be straight. We couldn't come in with the kinky hair, and we couldn't have braids and cornrows in our hair. We couldn't do that. And so we learned very early by our mamas and our grandmamas that your hair needed to be straightened. And back in the day when I used to get my hair straightened, we used to get it straightened with lye. And honey, your ass be on fire for 2 or 3 weeks with your hair looking like a cat licked it, bitch, because the scabs and the sores that used to be in your head from just getting a perm. And by the time, bitch, that the scabs and the sores was off your head, it was time to get another one. You never even got an opportunity to enjoy it. They used to have to put the perm in your hair and slap all that Vaseline in your hair. Like we went through torture to be accepted. So please don't judge a person by the outside. And if you do have a preference, it's okay. Just make sure that your preference doesn't affect someone else. That you don't find yourself um, offending other people or a whole race of people. Yeah. Yes. Yes, Auntie Eva. Yes. They started us off early. And maybe one day we'll talk about that, that process. Um, but yeah, so we'll come back to 23 types of guys you might meet on social media. I think I'm going to do this two more times, go through this series go through this two more times. And then I think there will be, that'll be it. Because the last thing I want to do is pick this book apart. That's one thing about me. I will pick a book apart, but I think that it's very important that we talk about these type of things. I thank Janice for writing this book because it gives you an opportunity to have dialogue and to have a conversation, and a very open and candid conversation about some of the guys that you may meet on social media. I want to, give, I'm hoping that you all are going out and buying a book. Again, I do have one extra copy of this book. So if you all would like to get that, don't forget to hit me up in my email and, just let me know, Auntie, and I'll randomly pull the names, and I will send an email back out to you letting you know if you were selected and getting your mailing address and mailing it out to you, because Janice was gracious enough to send me not only this book but a couple of other books, and she sent me 2 copies. And so I want to be able to bless and bless somebody's life with this. I think that it, so far it's a really good book, and it has just allowed us to have this kind of conversation. And so I appreciate any book that causes a conversation to be had, right? So I thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate you. Thank you to my moderators for all just always being on point. Thank you so much to everybody who has had a conversation in the chat, because I know a lot of people are like peeking. They in the bushes. And I do want you all to know that this is in no way a dig to Janice. I noticed that some of her people have felt like they've had to defend her. You don't have to defend her work. I respect her, and I respect the work that she has done. This is a conversation. This is not a criticism or critique. This is one person's thought versus another person's thought. And we all have different perspectives. So I don't want you all to feel like I got to go out there and defend her. I think she meant this. We can have the best intentions on communicating something to people, but everybody's going to see things a little differently. And even some of the things that I say out here, you probably disagree with it, but I don't want you to think in any way that I'm at war with her, or I'm trying to drag her, or you got to go back and say, Auntie said this or Auntie said that. I'm not saying that's happening, but I know how the enemy is. His job is to steal, kill, and destroy. And if he believes that he can still kill and destroy our relationship, then he will absolutely try to do that. And he will do that through people who may not have the best intentions, or who just don't know any better. And I want you all to know that I respect this woman of God. She's been a blessing in my life, and she's been a blessing in many women's lives. She is a supporter of women, and so am I. And I asked her if I could review this book. And I want you all to know that I have respect enough to ask her that. And because I may disagree with some of the thoughts or some of the things in the book, does not mean that I disagree with her. They are thoughts put on a paper, and I am talking about them. So, okay. You said you was peeking, Shanta. Thank you, Auntie. I was peeking. Yeah, because I want you all to know that this isn't, I respect that woman. I have the utmost respect for her. And that's not going to change because I'm reviewing or having a difference of opinion. And we have to understand, especially as Black women, that we can have different opinions and still be okay with each other. I'm not walking away or trying to down her or anything like that. I think it's very interesting. And I thank her for every page in this book because, like I said, it gives me an opportunity to sit and talk with you about it. It gives me an opportunity to give a different perspective on someone else's thoughts. Right? So I don't, I don't want you all to feel like, oh my God, I can't put nothing in the comment because Janice might see it. You know what I'm saying? Or Auntie may see it. You don't have to defend her. God got her. And God has me. And we are two women in the word. I may not seem like it, with the stuff that come out my mouth, but we're two women walking in the word. And fundamentally, we agree. Okay? So I love you all to pieces. Y'all, thank you so much for being here. Please share this video with other women that you believe will be blessed by our conversation. Love y'all. Good night.